One of the many interruptions we have to deal with is when a colleague or a customer or a supplier comes up to us, interrupts us to ask for our opinion on something or a decision. And in many businesses, there are a small number of people who make the vast majority of decisions. It's a big challenge for a lot of us as managers and supervisors if people keep coming to us, asking for our help with problems and asking for our advice. Because there is a capacity issue. There's only so much time we have each day. There's only so many conversations we can hold. Only so many decisions we can make. We're a bit like a tomato, really. You're either getting ripe or you're going rotten. There's no maintenance strategy for a tomato. And we're like that. We have a peak of performance. We have a limit. We don't like to admit it, but we do. And the nearer you get to that absolute limit of your performance, then the more likely it is for that performance to fade in all areas. So when people come up to you, we don't want to be the kind of Jobsworth who just says, look, it's not my problem, you sort it. We want to be helpful and supportive, and that's the right thing to do. Our responsibility, though, is not to solve the problems for them, because the more you help someone, the more helpless they become. We have to find a way of coaching them and ourselves to make better, more consistent, more rational decisions. Now, the likelihood is tomorrow, if not today, someone's going to come up to you and say, I've got a bit of a problem, can you help me? And being a really nice person, you're going to say, oh, tell me about it. And so they do. They start to describe that problem to you, which is wonderful. The challenge is that you're pretty quick and you quickly notice two things. Number one, there's a bit of a problem. And number two, you're not quite sure what to do with it. And if you're not careful, some very dangerous words begin to come out of your mouth, which begin with, leave it with me. And the minute you say, leave it with me, a monkey jumps off of their back and jumps off of yours. And these fellas make a lot of noise, roar, and make a lot of mess all over the floor. So you go through your business tomorrow and meet people. You say, how are you today? Oh, a bit of a problem, boss. Monkey. How are you today? Bit of a problem, boss. Monkey. How are you today? Bit of a problem, boss. Monkey. You end up with 5 or 6 of these fellas all sat round your desk going, roar. Everybody else is going home, 5:30, 6 o'clock, they're going, bye, see you tomorrow, bye. And you're sat there with these things dropping mess all over the floor. Now, either you got to shoot them or you got to pick them up and take them home with you. It's not a pretty situation. Now, I know you've never done that yourself personally. You might be tempted in the future. How do we keep the monkey where he belongs, which is with the person who gave you the problem in the first place? We do it by adopting a more rational decision-making process as a coaching tool, so we make better decisions more consistently. And we're also able to coach other people to learn how to make decisions, how to solve problems, how to manage risks. What's important is to teach other people so they stop coming back to see us. Yes, of course, it's quicker the first time to solve the problem yourself. It's quicker to do it yourself the second time, and the third time, and the fourth time, and probably the fifth time, but not the 45th time. So when someone comes up to you and they say, boss, I've got a bit of a problem, you go, great, tell me about the problem. As they describe the problem to you, you're looking for all manner of things, all the symptoms and all the gooey stuff that go along with it. When they get to the end of the description, you go, great. Now, if it were your job to sort this out, because, by the way, it is, what do you think all the possible causes could be? Now, of course, that's going to be a bit of a shock to them, because normally they just leave you with a monkey. And so I say, well, I don't know, boss. You say, well, if you did know, what would all the possible causes be? Now, as they begin to brainstorm and give you some of the ideas, you encourage and support that. At some point, they'll get a bit of a headache and say, oh, stop, boss, I need aspirin quick. You say, great, that's all the possible causes. Now, if those are all the possible causes, what do you think all the possible solutions could be? Because, you know, this is your problem to sort out, don't you? When they get over the shock, you help them brainstorm all the possible solutions. And at the end of that process, you say, right, well, if it were your decision, step 4, to make the best selection, to decide on how to solve this problem, because, by the way, it is your job to do that. What do you think is the best possible solution? And they might say, oh, I don't know, boss, I normally give this job to you, but well, I think I should do that. And you say, great, if you do that one thing along with that and that, do those three things together, that'll probably work. Off you go, lovely boy. Now the likelihood is they'll come back tomorrow and they'll say, boss, I've got a bit of a problem. And you say, great, tell me about the problem. Step 2, what are all the possible causes of the problem? They say, boss, last time you did this, I got a headache. So it's not a problem, here's an aspirin. Brainstorm all the possible causes, because it's your job to sort this out. And they get to the end of all the things they can think of, you say, great, well done, what are all the possible solutions? And then step 4, finally, if it were your job to sort this, because it is, what do you reckon is the best possible decision? I say, well, last time you told me to do this, and I think I should do that. And you say, absolutely, do those 2 things, and do that 3rd thing as well, do those 3 things together. Off you go, lovely girl. Now, if they come back next time, you say, what are all the problems? What are all the possible causes? What are all the possible solutions? And what do you reckon is the best solution? If they come back a 4th time, write the 4 steps out on a piece of paper and just give it to them. And say, look, every time you come to me now, I just take you through 4 steps. Define the problem, list all the possible causes, list all the possible solutions, and work out the best possible solution. So from now on, whenever you come up with a problem, whenever you find something that's going wrong, just go through those 4 steps yourself and write out the answers. Now, if you get to step 4 and you go, that's the right answer, I know it is, crack on, just carry on. No need to come to me. If you get to step 4 and you go, not sure what to do, then bring me the workings out, the answers of those 4 questions, and together we'll work through it. That's a bit like when you was at school doing algebra with Mrs. Smith. You know, you couldn't go up to Mrs. Smith in the middle of an algebra lesson and go, Miss, I've got a problem. She'll say, oh no, I gave it to you. You can't go, Miss, is this the right answer? Because she'll say, where is your workings out? Because it's the thinking that we've got to train. It's not about getting the right answer. It's about how do we solve problems? Have we got the right thinking? And so if you bring those answers to those 4 questions, what's the problem? What are the causes? What are the possible solutions? And what do you reckon is the best solution to me? Then we'll work it out. Now that is a simple 4-step rational decision-making method. It's a 4-step problem-solving method. Sometimes it's not a problem that people bring you. Actually, what they bring you is a risk, because they'll say, boss, 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 if we don't sort this out, boy, will we have a problem in 2 weeks' time. The fact that the negative impact is not here and now means you have not got a problem. What you have is a potential problem. You have a risk. Something is trying to take you away from the plan that's already in play. In that case, the 4 questions are slightly different. First question is, okay, so what's the worst case? Describe that to me. Can you fully describe what will really be going wrong big time if this really does unravel? Get a good description of that. Step 2 is, how would we cope? If that real worst case scenario happens, how would we cope? Step 3, how can we improve on that worst case? And finally, step 4, how can you stop it going wrong in the first place? Now, we do that kind of risk management naturally in our personal lives without even thinking about it. And then we come into a business scenario and we forget all about it. You know, if you were going on an important trip and you've got to go around the M25 in the UK, you know you're going to get stuck in a traffic jam. It's our best parking lot. So if you know you're going to do that, the worst case scenario is you're going to miss your flight. It's just too important. You're going to miss that well important meeting. So you've got to plan to prevent that. You've got to manage that risk. Now, how would you cope in that situation if you got stuck? Well, you need something to eat, something to drink, a good book to read. How could you improve on the worst? Well, yeah, you'd take a mobile phone with you, take a couple of phone numbers of people so you could ring them and warn them. You might Leave an hour early, take your sat-nav with you and plan 3 routes in case things go wrong. Leave the radio on so you can work out where the traffic is building up. How could you possibly stop yourself from being late for an important flight or an important meeting if you've got to go around the M25? Travel up the night before, be 5 minutes around the corner, stay over with a friend or stay in a hotel. And we do that naturally in our personal lives without really thinking about it. And yet when we spend £20,000 on a new sales and marketing campaign, we don't sit down and risk manage it and go, what happens if it doesn't work? What would be the worst case scenario? We spend all the money, we get no increased sales. If we haven't got any increased sales and we've spent the money, how are we going to pay the wages? How are we going to cope? What could we do to improve that worst case scenario so if it didn't produce any results, we've at least got something as an alternative to try? And lastly, step 4, how can I absolutely make sure it cannot possibly go wrong? So the rational decision-making process enables us to tackle problems and to manage risks. You've got 2 very simple 4-step models which help us either solve a problem or manage a risk. When people come up to you and ask for your help, don't just help them. You'll make them helpless. What we've got to do is train them to think. Yes, it will take you longer the first time to take them through the 4-step problem-solving process or the 4-step rational decision-making process that will manage the risks. It will still be far more time efficient over time.